Okay, so I applied the paint to the paper, and honestly, your painting or your whatever you're creating, if you're anything like me, chances are it's going to go through an ugly stage. And so right here, we are actually going to push some paint around. Please note that greens and reds are complementary colors, so it's great because it helps the colors pop. However, it'll also make browns. So I'm going to start over here by mixing up my greens, and I kind of want to keep them away for just a little bit from my reds. Here we go. I have that plastic mat underneath to make sure that I don't get on the table. There we go. Now I'm going to come back in for my red. I'm going to kind of go around it. You can see I kind of want to add these brush strokes in such a way that it's adding almost like a foliage kind of feel. What I love about this is you might even come back and scrape it, okay, to bring out that base color. And so you see how I did that. Now I'm going to come and basically I'm moving over to this side. I am going to carry that brown over, kind of get that cleaned out a little bit. Go over this. Remember at the very beginning how I said I am going to come around, I'm going to kind of paint some of these strings. And so right here, I'm coming in, I'm painting really close next to it. And I'll probably come in with some of this brown. But again, here, I'm gonna come and scrape because I still want that texture. Okay, so there I'm starting to build that base. I'm gonna flip this around so that you can see it a little bit better. Again, coming in with my greens close to my animal. We'll work on our animal at some point. I will end up probably coming back in, and I really liked that Saola up there. There we go. So I might leave that so you can just see that a little bit. Again, we want a little bit of pop there, so I brought that in like that. It's funny because if you use a little bit of green, you get kind of a, because I am using it's a primary red, you almost get this like purplish hue. It's more brown than purple, but here we go. And you can see how I just scraped things off my horn. That's gonna be okay because we're gonna be shaping that and adding color to that in a second. Once this kind of starts to dry. Feel free to grab a little bit of water. Sometimes I do, just because I really want it to spread nicely. And my brush gets a little thick. There we go. Okay. Come back in here and add some texture. And if these little ends come up, just paint them back down. Again, if I would have used like the golden medium on top of it, then I would have to wait for it to dry. I didn't want to wait for it to dry. I wanted to work right away. So that's one of the reasons why I use the Yes Paste. I will sometimes use different things at different times for different reasons. I mean, I think everyone would. Okay, so I'm gonna put this really bright green right next to it. And I'm pulling this out like this. I want some contrast to this so that you can actually see this. And we'll add some more to this in a little bit. Again, like I said, every painting goes, well, I feel like every one of my paintings at least, or mixed media pieces, go through an ugly stage. Here real quick, I wanna grab another, because I wanna get a little closer. There we go. Have a little bit more control. Okay. So these little Saolas, I was reading and they love berries. And so I like having that little red in there to kind of give that a feeling of maybe he found some berries. Okay, adding, oh, did you see how I did that? It's gonna be a beautiful lips, don't worry. If you make a mistake, mixed media is so gorgeous because of the fact that you can come back and repurpose it or play with it or fix it. Okay, so right here I have the background done. You can kind of see my Saola kind of melted into the background, which that's okay for the moment. I got a little water on my brush and I have a little green on there, and I'm coming back in. If you remember, I said I was going to come back and I was going to paint these. And I wanted them there, but I didn't necessarily want the brightness of that color. But let me show you a trick here. So I'm coming back, kind of have this really murky, some people might have a problem because it's this like murky green, so it's obviously that red has really been worked into that. And I'm adding that water so I can get it underneath the threads. What will be really cool about this is it will also harden the threads, so it will give the threads like a completely different texture. And then you can always come back and pull some back off. If you remember, I had mentioned that I had wanted to pull in some vintagey colors just to help blend that in. Greens. I might even add a little blue later on. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to wash these threads, and I'm not too worried about them looking a particular way. Just kind of blending them in. But you can see how that gave it a really nice textural aspect of it. This over here, I did cover up that chartreuse green. I'm really actually okay with that because I'm more interested in having the texture. And then I am going to leave these red and pink kind of like vibrant over here, but I am going to take my little brush and get in those corners. There we are. Because when you pick up a painting, you want to make sure that you're not seeing the white in there. Now, some people would be like, do not embroider and then add color. But like I said, I really was hoping to bring in the textural aspect of it more than I was to keep the actual thread-like feel. So anyway, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Like I said earlier, I might actually add some blue later on. So now what I want to do is I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to clean up these little edges. I am okay if there's a little bit of white. However, I kind of want to make sure that it is super toned down. Ooh, see, these deckled edges are kind of showing through. That's really fun. You can see the textural aspect of what's happening. I know that our Saola is kind of like blending in, but we will pull him back out. That's not going to be a big deal. We just really want to get these edges so we don't have to worry about them. Again, you can see this edge right here is kind of like white, and I'm not trying to completely cover it up. I just want to give it a little bit of a wash. There we are. A little bit more water. Wash that out. Depending on the paper that you're using, you might feel, or it might take on different, might take differently to the color. Okay. And that is our first base coat in the back. And you can barely see that Saola. He is still here. We are gonna not worry about that. We're gonna bring him out in a little bit.